Hour. That's the Good Things. I'm your host, Rebecca Turner. Now, don't forget, you can listen to Good Things. We are streaming live over at SuperTalk.fm. We're also streaming from that SuperTalk Mississippi app and your local SuperTalk Mississippi radio station. And don't forget, you can watch us. We are on your computer, your mobile device. Just head on over to SuperTalk TV. And you may have heard about wildlife officials in Mississippi locating the largest black bear since the state launched an effort to thoroughly research the endangered species more than 20 years ago. And joining us today is one that had the pleasure of being in the field and taking that record. Joining us is Anthony Ballard with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, the Black Bear Program Leader. So, hey, Anthony.
Hey, Rebecca, how are you?
I'm so excited to finally get to talk to you because ever since I heard about you guys finding M18 and weighing him or her, is it a he or a she?
It's a him.
It's a him. I've had so many questions about it. Before I get to those, how did this particular day all go down? Did you get a lead that you had seen a big bear and then you guys go out, or had you been following M18 all this time?
Well, M18 was originally collared in the summer of 22, and the collar came off almost immediately. You know, a lot of times with those big males, they have big necks, and it's kind of hard to get the collar tight enough where it's, you know, it will stay on, but also loose enough where it doesn't pose a risk. So the bear slipped the collar. We really haven't had any, you know, contact or any way to track him since then. And the only thing that I knew going into trapping this bear that turned out to be him was the fact that he had one ear tag still left in his ear. So I knew we had caught him before at some point, but I didn't know which bear it was, and, you know, obviously didn't know exactly how big he was either.
So do y'all get a call like, hey, big black bear in my backyard, y'all need to come check this out? Is that kind of how you reunited with M18?
Well, coincidentally enough, we had been on that property before. It was in Sharkey County. It was on one particular food plot, and we had actually trapped the largest female that we have on record in that same food plot with that same landowner. So it was actually, we thought for a minute that it was her and she might have slipped her collar because, you know, anything that has a collar also has ear tags. And then once we started looking at the pictures and videos, like, no, this is definitely a different bear. And so, like I said, coincidentally enough, it's the largest female and the largest bear that we have on record. The largest female and male that we have on record were trapped, you know, 50 yards from each other.
Well, I hope they're making the largest bear babies together. Would that be fair to say?
That's possible.
Okay, so what's next? Like, it's not like you can just go out and say, here, M18, come here to me. I mean, I guess you could, but that would not be probably very advisable. So how do you even go about getting him to a point where you could do the research that you need to do and collect the data you needed to collect?
Well, usually what we have is a situation where it's a bear that's coming down a trail or through a food plot, but a lot of times it's to a feeder, right, because that's a free food source. And so what we'll do is, you know, I'll use the landowner's information that they already have. Most of the time it's trail camera pictures, and we'll confirm that that bear is coming to that location. We'll put our trap out. In this case, it was an automated trap with live stream capabilities, so we can actually monitor everything remotely. And once we get that motion notification, we can start a live stream. And I have an app on my phone that I can push that button and drop the gate remotely. And so, you know, once he came, I put that trap out on, I think it was around noon the day before, and trapped him that night. And then we worked him up first thing the next morning.
Who knew there's an app for that? I would have never guessed.
Yep, that's right. There's an app for everything.
Okay. One of my first questions that came to mind, Anthony, when we read this story or the story came across is M18 weighs 510 pounds. That's outstanding. I mean, that's a big bear. How do you weigh him out in the field? You didn't load him up, bring him back into town to put him on a scale. How do you guys handle that out in the field?
Well, it's a big operation, and there's a lot of things that have to happen in a pretty short amount of time. You know, obviously, we want to get all that stuff done as quick as we can while they're under anesthesia. And so after they're under anesthesia, we have essentially it's a big cargo net that we'll put just at the rear of the trap. So we'll basically just take the bear out of the trap, place him on that cargo net, and then we have a tripod with a winch and a cable where we can basically attach hooks all the way around that net and hoist them up like that on a scale, and then put them right back down and continue with our workup. And so obviously the weight's important, but there's a lot of other things like the collaring, the ear tags, all the samples that we collect and the measurements that all have to go, in a span of about 45 minutes.
What other information are you guys tracking for this? I know the way you said the collar, the ear tags and things, but in terms from a health perspective, are we trying to keep him healthy to see if he is generating, more offspring? Like, what's kind of the thought process behind that?
Well, we certainly take health parameters, so we'll take certain just general notes of body conditions, in external parasites if they have those. Just what's the general body, the health of the animal, any kind of scars or injuries perhaps. In this particular case, this bear was already handled, and so we had a history there that we could look back and see. We take, a lot of times we'll extract a tooth, and that's sent off to a lab for aging, so we'll know how old the bear is. We take blood samples, we take hair for DNA analysis, and just kind of an overall workup, I guess. And then obviously the collar will go on, so it'll give us positional data. And then there's external and internal markings that we can go back and identify that bear, later on if he's ever caught again.
Why is it important to have the black bear program in Mississippi, Anthony? I mean, some would say it's not really a critter I want in my backyard. I mean, they can be very dangerous, even though he looks super cuddly, laying there with you completely asleep. They're always nice asleep, right? So why is it so important over the last 20 years that the department has worked hard to protect and preserve these animals here in Mississippi?
Well, I mean, a lot of what we've done is just monitoring the population as it grows. And so as this population grows, first of all, they're a native species. They were never introduced to Mississippi. They've always been here, sometimes in very low numbers, but they're a native wildlife species. And what we've tried to do over the years in the program is to monitor that population, the overall health, the numbers. We're hoping to come out with another population estimate here within the next year. And that's all just to make more informed management decisions. We do hope that the population gets to a point where it is able to be harvested. So, Louisiana just had their first season in over several decades there in Louisiana. And, we hope that's a success story that makes its way into Mississippi as well.
So right now, if you find one in your backyard, who do you call, Anthony? Or what do you do or you don't do?
Well, in general, we tell people that, bears are generally not going to hurt you. They don't really pose any sort of threat. If there's one in your backyard, obviously you're going to want, if it can't get out, that would be something that you would call us for. But, just general sightings, we do have a website where it's MDWFP.com. You can go to the black bear program and report a black bear sighting. You can see publicly reported sightings that's projected on a map from other people that have made those same reports. And, just from a general, there's a lot of hunters out in the woods right now. If you see a bear out in the woods, the best thing to do is just be calm, make your way away from the bear, create distance. And, the bear, once the bear knows that you're there, it's going to go off the other direction. You're not going to really have anything to worry about.
What would be a fun fact about black bears that you would like for folks to know, Anthony, or that you find neat working with them?
Probably the neatest thing that I do on a yearly basis, and a lot of people don't know this, is particularly in the Delta, the western side of the state, where you have a lot of unpredictable water levels, backwaters and that kind of thing. You have a lot of old-growth cypress. Those cypress trees can be, hundreds of years old, and over time they create cavities. There are different rot outs and cavities that form in those trees, and the bears will actually climb 20, 30, even 50 feet into a tree and actually den in those cavities in the trees over the wintertime. And that's not something that people necessarily think of, a bear climbing 50 or 60 feet into a cypress tree and denning and actually having cubs in those trees. And that's part of what we'll be doing. Den checks coming up in the spring is actually climbing some of those and going into those cavities and looking at cubs. This is a long shot, Anthony, but there a chance that Good Things can name one of the cubs that you find? Because M18, that just isn't doing it for me. I'm going to need a better okay, we talk about it. And then 2, please tell me someone got a nice little bear hug while M18 was under anesthesia, because it would be hard not to give that thing a good old squeeze around the neck. Yeah, those workups are really, they're a hands-on experience. I'll put it that way. There's a lot of people involved, and with those bears that are so heavy like that, you can't help but get pretty close and get pretty close to him as you're trying to handle him. So I guess you could call it a bear hug.
What a cool job you got, Anthony. Well, you got to keep us updated. We'll get you back in the spring and see how the den hunts go and all the things, okay?
All right, sounds good. I appreciate it.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We got more good things for you coming up.